Hello, all you beautiful people out there. Sorry about that. No idea what happened. My sound was good when I tested it, and then it just you know. Anyway, how you doing today? If you're new, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for taking a chance on what I have to say. I hope you find it interesting. I hope you subscribe to the channel. So anyway, um, so first things first, we always have to get the comment of the week first, because that's what I always do. And comment of the week this week goes to dun, 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 Doorknob Head under Jim Jones, His Childhood. This is a rather old video, but at any rate, let's read what Doorknob Head has to say. Zoinks! Talk about getting kicked in the hiney with hindsight. We might call this a quote-unquote setup for failure at work. Now, after saying that, I wonder how much these characteristics actually manifest into troublesome expressions, or how much psychology might have had overreached studying this particular case, and with potential confirmation bias has tried to apply it to other individuals, and if that it why these flags seem to be a common theme floating around as red flags in our cultural ethos, or if that cultural ethos is deserved. Maybe I'll suggest to the Dr. Todd Grande YouTube channel to do an examination of Jim Jones. All right, so if you don't know the Zoinks reference, it's a show from the 70s that's actually made a popular comeback. It's called Scooby-Doo. And it is actually the expletive of Shaggy. All Scooby-Doo characters have their individual expletives, and Zoinks is Shaggy's. So that's what that comes from. As for the psychology, I don't really know. I mean, psychologists do try to take as much culture away from experiments as possible, but because of the very subject matter of psychology, that can be difficult. I just want to say that straight up. So, as for bias, again, experiments do try to keep bias to a minimum, but sometimes that doesn't happen. That's why there's peer review. So anyway, and then we have Today in History. Today's kind of a fun one, kind of. Disneyland opens. Walt Disney, born in Chicago in 1901, worked as a commercial artist before setting up a small studio in LA to produce animated cartoons. In 1928, his short film Steamboat Willie, starring the character Mickey Mouse, was a national sensation. It was the first animated film to use sound, and Disney provided the voice for Mickey. From there on, Disney cartoons were in heavy demand, but the company struggled financially because of Disney's insistence on ever improving artistic and technical quality. His first feature length cartoon, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, 1938, took 3 years to complete and was a great commercial success. Snow White was followed by other feature length classics for children, such as Pinocchio 1940, Dumbo 1941, and Bambi 1942. Fantasia 1940, which coordinated animated segments with famous classical music pieces, was an artistic and technical achievement. In Song in the South 1946, I don't think that's available anymore, uh, just because of the racism that's in it, the blatant racism that's in it. Um, but the Song in the South was produced in 1946, so can't really blame Walt Disney for that because in 1946, you know, racism was rampant, even out west. So, I, technically, it's still rampant, but it's not as bad. And a film such as Song in the South would never be produced today. Disney combined live actors with animated figures, and beginning with Treasure Island in 1950, the company added live action movies to its repertoire. Disney was also one of the first movie studios to produce film directly for television, and its Zorro and Davy Crockett series were very popular with children. In the 1950s, Disney began designing a huge amusement park to be built near LA. He intended Disneyland to have educational as well as amusement value and to entertain adults and children. Land was bought in the farming community of Anaheim, about 25 miles west of LA, and construction began in 54. In the summer of 55, special invitations sent out for the opening of Disneyland on July 17th. Unfortunately, the pass was counterfeited and thousands of uninvited people were admitted into Disneyland on opening day. The park was not ready for the public. Food and drink ran out. A woman's high-heeled shoe got stuck in the wet asphalt of Main Street, USA, and the Mark Twain steamboat nearly capsized from too many passengers. Disney soon recovered, however, and attractions such as the castle. Uh, they're talking about Cinderella's castle. Um, you see it on every single Disney production at the very beginning. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, Snow White's Adventures, Space Station X1, Jungle Cruise, and Stagecoach drew countless children and their parents. Special events and continual buildings of new state-of-the-art attractions encouraged them to visit again. In 65, work began on an even bigger Disney theme park and resort near in Orlando, Florida. Disney died in 1966, and Walt Disney World was opened in his honor on October 1st, 1971. Epcot Center, Disney MGM Studios, and Animal Kingdom were later added. So, yeah, that was considering some of the today in history we've had lately. Hey, Junk Shop. That was Hello? Did you guys hear all that, or did I just say that all in like silence over here? Because like, yeah, Lisa, uninvited. Like, they really, um, there was a lot of forging of the tickets going on. Okay, thank you, Lisa. There was a lot of forging of the tickets going on. So there were a lot of people who showed up that they weren't expecting to show up. And that's why it was a disaster. It wasn't a disaster because, you know, they were planning on only so many showing up, and, you know, love your sense of humor, Junk Shop. Hey, Limited Light. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my headset. um, it shouldn't cut off, but anyway. So now we get on to our main event, which is making fun of the Bible. By the way, I do have a PSA. Um, and this kind of pisses me off. Um, First of all, if you are a Christian coming to my channel, don't try to convert the Jews. Okay? They don't want your excuse me. They don't want your religion. They don't. They have their own. They're happy with their own. Don't try to convert them. Pisses me off. And another thing that pisses me off is people who don't accept other people for who they are. Okay? Trans people, um, homosexual people, people are who they are. All right? If you don't get that, get the hell off my channel. Because if you can't respect people for who they are, I don't want you fucking around here. And yes, I will delete any comment that has hate speech. I will not allow that. Just so you know, YouTube sometimes lets that stuff get through, which it shouldn't, but sometimes it does. I will not allow that. Okay, so today we thank you, Junk Shop. Uh, Today we are starting Joshua, and of course, we always start with chapter 1 because that's where things start. Is with numero uno. So let's get started. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. God, did you really have to tell Joshua that? Uh, he kind of knows that. Absolutely, Limited Light. Absolutely. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give them. To the Israelites, I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Okay. First of all, the Exodus didn't happen. The wandering in the wilderness didn't happen. None of this ever happened. Okay. God never gave the Israelites every place the sole of their foot landed. It never happened, okay? Israel was a itty bitty kingdom that wasn't even in existence until the collapse of the Bronze Age. Okay? Uh, so, anyway, um, verse 4. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. Okay, I just want to point out something. You know, this is how you know that this wasn't written when it was purported to have been written. Okay, the Hittite Empire did not even exist at the time this book of Joshua was purported to have been written. Hey, Terima. So that's like one of the major things, you know, when you realize the archaeology of the um, land that we're dealing with, you know, the Hittites didn't even exist at the time this was supposed to have been written. Verse 5. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I don't know whether he's talking about the children of Israel as a whole or whether he's talking about Joshua in particular. I'm assuming he's talking about Joshua in particular because it says that God is speaking to Joshua, son of Nun. So I'm assuming that's who he's talking about specifically. However, Christians are going to say, no, he's talking to everybody. No, he was talking to Joshua. Quit your bitching and complaining when you can't even read the fucking words on the fucking page. I know, right, Terima? So, anyway, be strong and courageous because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. God's got Alzheimer's. He just said it. I'm not repeating myself. He says, be strong. In verse 7, he says, be strong and very courageous. Be careful to, in verse 6, he says, be strong and courageous. And then in verse 7, he says, be strong and very courageous. I'm not making this shit up. Go read it for yourself. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Third time in what? We're on verse 8, I think. We're on verse 8. 3 times in 2 fucking verses. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Verse 10. So Joshua ordered the officers of the people, go through the camp and tell the people, get your provisions ready. 3 days from now you will cross the Jordan here to go in and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you for your own. But to the Reubenites, the Gadites, the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joshua said, remember the command that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you after he said, the Lord your God will give you rest by giving you this land. Your wives, your children, and livestock may stay in the land that Moses gave you east of the Jordan. But all your fighting men ready for battle must cross over ahead of your fellow Israelites. You are to help them until the Lord gives them rest, as he has done for you, and until they too have taken possession of the land the Lord your God is giving them. After that, you may go back and occupy your own land, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you east of the Jordan toward the sunrise. All right, let's stop there. I just want to ask, how the hell did they train people in the desert? And how the hell did supposed slaves in Egypt, and remember, they were never slaves in Egypt, okay? This shit never happened, okay? So just remember that. How the hell are former slaves in Egypt supposed to train their children how to fight? Because the Egyptians sure ain't gonna allow their slaves to fight. Hell no. That's a recipe for disaster. Oh, the first 2 times were warm up. That's a good one, Doorknob Head. Okay, verse 16. Then they answered Joshua, whatever you have commanded us, we will do, and wherever you send us, we will go. Just as we fully obeyed Moses, so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your word and does not obey it, whatever you command them, will be put to death. Only be strong and courageous. So now he's got the people doing it too. Hey, Nevermore. Ah, shit. Alrighty. I don't know. This is just. Hey, I made up a word for this shit. Ridiculosity. You know why I made up that word? Because ridiculous didn't even cut it. So I had to make up a new word. Ridiculosity. Okay, chapter 2. Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. Go look over the land, he said, especially Jericho. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. The king of Jericho was told, look, some of the Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So the king of Jericho sent this message to Rahab, bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, because they have come to spy out the whole land. All right. I gotta say this right here, right now, because if I don't, I'm just gonna get more heated. Um, Oh, thank you, Lisa. So, anyway, um, Jericho didn't even exist at the time that this book was supposedly written. Okay? Didn't exist. It's a very, very, very old city. And there are many, many destruction layers in Jericho. But no destruction layers can be found to date to this time. None. And we're talking about this book of Joshua was supposed to have been written in the Bronze Age. Canaan didn't even have any walled cities in the Bronze Age. How did they know what? Nevermore. You got that right, Lisa. That's a good one, Tarim. That's a good one. All right. So, yeah, Jericho, it is an old city. It was destroyed several times. There is no destruction layer to this time. And even if there was, the time this was supposedly written, there were no walled cities in Canaan because this was supposed to have been written in the Bronze Age. Verse 4. But the woman had taken the two men and hidden them. She said, Yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, they left. I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly. You may catch up with them. But she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax she had laid out on the roof. So the men set out in pursuit of the spies on the road that led to the fords of Jordan, and as soon as the pursuers had gone out, the gate was shut. This makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. Okay? Because in this time, if we grant that Jericho existed, which I don't, but I mean, let's pretend, okay? Let's just pretend. Cities were very, very, very small at this point. Everybody knew everybody else's business. Okay. And you can tell that because the king of Jericho heard that, thank you, doorknob head, throwing money. Tarm06 told me to. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay. So this is a very, very, very small city because they were all small cities at this point. There were no large cities. And so everybody knew everybody else's business. So if the king had heard that Israelite spies had been sent, first of all, how did he know they were Israelite spies? Okay, that's my first question. My second question is, how did they not know that the spies hadn't left Rahab's house? Like I said, very small city. Everybody knows everybody else's business. That's okay, Junk Shop. I appreciate it anyway. Thank you so much, Doorknob Head. Appreciate it. Um, the blah, 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 blah. Okay, so moving on. Verse 8. Before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. My question is why? Why? It takes so long for shit to get from one place to another here. I mean, in this time, it does, and a, a little nation like Israel, which by the way wasn't 600,000. That doesn't even make any fucking sense. But when does the Bible make any sense? Anyway, um, yeah, no, there's no way they would have heard about the Israelites. No way. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the two kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. How? How? And how do you even know these are the same people? Verse 11. When we heard it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brother and sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death. Our lives for your lives, the men assured her. If you don't tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us the land. So she let them down by a rope through the window, for the house she lived in was part of the city wall. She said to them, Go to the hills, so the pursuers will not find you. How did she know where to tell them? As far as I know, she didn't tell the pursuers where to go. Oh, is that why junk shop? I gotcha. Alrighty. Um, hide yourselves there 3 days until they return, and then go on your way. Now, we've already seen the theme of three come up in the Bible. Okay. It's going to come up again and again and again and again and again. It's an important number in Jewish tradition. And it has nothing to do with the Trinity because the Jews don't believe in a fucking Trinity, okay? Verse 17. Now the men said to her, This oath you made us swear will not be binding on us unless, when we enter the land, you have tied this scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, and unless you have brought your father, your mother, your brothers, and all your family into your house. If any of them go outside your house into the street, their blood will be on their own heads. We will not be responsible. As for those who are in the house with you, their blood will be on our head if a hand is laid on them. But if you tell what we are doing, we will be released from the oath you made us swear. Agreed, she replied. Let it be as you say. And so she sent them away, and they departed, and she tied the scarlet cord in the window. Um, yeah, 'cause having a scarlet cord tied in the window isn't at all fishy. I mean, come on. The king has to be a total idiot not to see what Rahab did. I mean, seriously. How does this make any sense at all? Yep, junk shop. So, anyway, verse 22, when they left, they went into the hills and stayed there 3 days until the pursuers had searched all along the road and returned without finding them. Then the two men started back. They went down out of the hills, forded the river, and came to Joshua son of Nun and told him everything that had happened to them. They said to Joshua, the Lord has surely given the whole land into our hands. All the people are melting in fear because of us. I doubt that. All right, chapter 3. Moving right along here. Because even though this is stupid, at least it's not as stupid as Deuteronomy was. Early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Shittim. I still can't get over that. I still can't get over that name, Shittim. Shittim, whatever. Um, and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people. When you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God and the Levitical priests carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits between you and the ark. Do not go near it. So, my question is, if the people have never been there before, how the fuck did the priests know where to go? Verse 5. Joshua told the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Joshua said to the priests, take up the Ark of the Covenant and pass on ahead of the people. So they took it up and went ahead of them. And the Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, so they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's waters, go and stand in the river. No thanks, God. Jordan's like one of the dirtiest rivers in the entire fucking world. Verse 9. Even back then, it was dirty. Okay? No fucking way I'm getting into that river. Oh, is that it? Junk shop library? So, like, do they have a special television in their head or something? Verse 9. Joshua said to the Israelites, "Come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites." Again, no such thing as the Hittites at this time. Okay, Nevermore. Have a nice nap. Oh, okay, I gotcha. See, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. And as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and stand up in a heap. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away at a town called Edom in the vicinity of Zarethan, while the water flowing down to the sea of the Arabah, that is, the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stopped on dry ground, while all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground. Bullshit. That's a good one, Limited Light. Okay, chapter 4, moving right along. We don't have as much bullshit right now. We'll get into the bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit in Joshua. But right now, we don't have as much bullshit as we had in Deuteronomy. Chapter 4. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, which, by the way, I want to know, okay, the whole of the nation of Israel was supposed to be crossing the Jordan, right? And the Levites were supposed to be standing in the middle of Jordan with the Ark of the Covenant, right? Okay. So how the fuck did the priests' arms keep their strength long enough for that to happen? Verse 2. Choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you, and put them down at the place where you stay tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, "Go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask, 'What did these stones mean?' tell them that the flow of Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. Well, that should be easy to prove. Show us the fucking stones. Very easy to prove, people. Verse 8. So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, as the Lord had told Joshua. They carried them over with them to their camp, where they put them down. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant had stood. And they are there to this day. Again, very easy to prove. Show us the fucking stones. And by the way, Joshua would have been about 80 at this time because he was 40 when he was sent to spy out the land. And then they had 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, if you buy this bullshit, which I don't. Okay. How does an 80-year-old man do this kind of shit? How does an 80-year-old man set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan? Because remember, the young, strapping lads that Joshua had chosen from the 12 tribes of Israel had to carry these stones on their shoulders. It says that right in the Bible. No idea, doorknob head. Yeah, I guess so. Um, alright. I need to get my place again. Alrighty. Verse 10. Now the priests who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of Jordan until everything the Lord had commanded Joshua was done by the people, just as Moses had directed Joshua. Now remember, the Ark of the Covenant not only has solid gold cherubs on top, okay, which is pretty heavy in and of itself, but in the box part, it has stone tablets, 2 stone tablets. How the fuck did they get enough strength to do all this shit? Alrighty. Um, The people hurried over, and as soon as all of them had crossed, the ark of the Lord and the priests who came to the other side while the people watched, the men of Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh, crossed over ready for battle in front of the Israelites as Moses had directed them. About 40,000 armed for battle crossed over before the Lord to the plains of Jericho for war. 40 is another important number in the Bible, and I'll get to that later. Verse 14. The day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they stood in awe of him all the days of his life, just as they had stood in awe of Moses. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Command the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant law to come up out of the Jordan." So Joshua commanded the priests, "Come up out of the Jordan." And the priests came up out of the river, carrying the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. No sooner had they set their feet on the dry ground. Wait a minute. I thought that when God parted the waters for them, they were on dry ground. This makes no sense. But hey, when did the Bible ever make sense? It doesn't need to make sense, right? Gotcha, doorknob head. Um, so verse 19. On the 10th day of the first month, the people went up from the Jordan and camped at Gilgal on the eastern border of Jericho. And Joshua set up at Gilgal the 12 stones they had taken out of Jordan. He said to the Israelites, "In the future, when your descendants ask their parents, 'What do these stones mean?' tell them Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan what he had done to the Red Sea when he dried it up before us until we had crossed over." I just want to say, couldn't they have come up with another story? Like, couldn't they have come up with, um, well, instead of God parting the Jordan like he parted the Red Sea, because we've already used that trope. Why don't we think of something else? Like, like, maybe chariots came down from heaven and just took us across the Red Sea? Or the Jordan, rather. Uh, I mean, seriously, they're making this shit up anyway, so why didn't they do that? Verse 24. He did this so that all the peoples of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God. Chapter 5. Now when all the Amorite kings west of the Jordan and all the Canaanite kings along the coast heard how the Lord had dried up the Jordan before the Israelites until they had crossed over, their hearts melted in fear, and they no longer had the courage to face the Israelites. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, "Make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again." Oh, goody! Genital mutilation yet again. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gibeath Haraloth. Now this is why he did so. All those who came out of Egypt, all the men of military age, died in the wilderness on the way after leaving Egypt. All the people that came out had been circumcised. But all the people born in the wilderness during the journey from Egypt had not. The Israelites had moved about in the wilderness 40 years until all the men who were of military age when they left Egypt had died, since they had not obeyed the Lord. I'm telling you, I cannot believe I used to believe this shit. What fucking moron believes this shit? For the Lord had sworn to them that they would not see the land he had solemnly promised their ancestors to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. And yes, people, I called myself a fucking moron. Just so you know. In my defense, I was raised in it. Verse 7. So he raised up their sons in their place, and these were the ones Joshua circumcised. They were still uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. Gee, did we really need that explanation? Like, we couldn't figure it out for ourselves? I don't, Lisa, but that's why I do this channel. Verse 8. And after the whole nation had been circumcised, they remained where they were in camp until they were healed. Gee, I wonder how long that took. Verse 9. Then the Lord said to Joshua, Today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. So the place has been called Gilgal to this day. On the evening of the 14th day of the month, while camped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, the Israelites celebrated the Passover. The day after the Passover, that very day, they ate some of the produce of the land, unleavened bread, and roasted grain. The manna stopped the day after they ate this food from the land. There was no longer any manna for the Israelites, but that year they ate the produce of Canaan. Mm. Uh, uh, this book drives me nuts sometimes. But I will say Joshua doesn't drive me as nuts as um, uh, Deuteronomy did. Deuteronomy drove me nuts. I was pulling my fucking hair out. All right, going on. Verse 13. Now when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, Are you for us or for our enemies? Verse 14. Neither, he replied. But as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence and asked him, What message does my Lord have for his servants? The commander of the Lord's army replied, Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy. And Joshua did so. Now, church tradition says that the commander of the Lord's army was Michael. And this is true, Junk Shop. Okay, chapter 6. Rolling right along. Now the gates of Jericho were securely barred before the Israelites. No one went out and no one came in. Again, people, Jericho didn't exist in this time when this book was supposedly written, and even if it had existed, it wouldn't have had walls. Verse 2. Then the Lord said to Joshua, See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carried trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. On the seventh day, march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse and the army will go up, everyone straight in. I would say, what the fucking hell are you talking about, God? Verse 6. So Joshua, son of Nun, called the priests, said to them, take up the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and have 7 priests carry trumpets in front of it. And he ordered the army, advance, march around the city, with an armed guard going ahead of the ark of the Lord. Now I want to know if these people were like, what is this fucking idiot doing? When Joshua had spoken to the people, the 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets before the Lord went forward, blowing their trumpets, and the ark of the Lord's covenant followed them. The armed guard marched ahead of the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard followed the ark. Why are the armed men in front of the ark? Shouldn't the ark go ahead of the armed men? I mean, what kind of a God needs armed men to defend him? All this time, the trumpets were sounding, but Joshua had commanded the army, do not give a war cry. Do not raise your voices. Do not say a word until the day I tell you to shout. Then shout. So he had the ark of the Lord carried around the city, circling it once. And then the army returned to camp and spent the night there. Wow. A whole day's work, people. Whole day's work. March around the city once. Verse 12. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests, carrying the 7 trumpets, went forward, marching before the ark of the Lord and blowing the trumpets. The armed men went ahead of them, and the rear guard followed the ark of the Lord while the trumpets kept sounding. So on the second day, they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. Wow. Very proud of you guys. Very proud of you that you could manage to march around the walls of a city that didn't even exist at the time this was supposedly written. That's a job well done. Job well done. Verse 15. On the 7th day, they got up at daybreak and marched around the city 7 times, in the same manner, except that on that day they circled the city 7 times. The 7th time around, when the priests sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the army, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. The city and all that is in it are to be devoted to the Lord. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are with her in her house shall be spared, because she hid the spice we sent. But keep away the devoted things, so that you will not bring about your own destruction by taking any of them. Otherwise, you will make the camp of Israel liable to destruction and bring trouble on it. All the silver and gold and articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord and must go into his treasury. Yeah, because, God needs gold. I mean, come on. We already know that. When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So everyone charged straight in, and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord and destroyed with the sword every living thing in it, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. Gee, very merciful of you, God, to kill the babies. Merciful. And the animals that did absolutely nothing? Oh yeah, why don't we fucking kill them too? Doesn't matter. Verse 22. Joshua said to the two men who had spied out the land, go into the prostitute's house. Um, Joshua, she has a name, you know. Go into the prostitute's house and bring her out and all who belong to her in accordance with your oath to her. So the young men who had done the spying went in and brought out Rahab, her father and mother, her brothers and sisters, and all who belonged to her. They brought out her entire family and put them in a place outside the camp of Israel. Then they burned the whole city and everything in it, but they put the silver and gold and articles of bronze and iron into the treasury of the Lord's house. Because, as we all know, God needs gold and silver. Verse 25. But Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute with her family and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. At that time Joshua pronounced the solemn oath, Cursed be cursed before the Lord is the one who undertakes to rebuild the city Jericho. Which is very, very funny because Jericho has had many, many, many lives. So that never came to pass. Never. Uh-uh. At the cost of his firstborn son, he will lay its foundations. At the cost of his youngest, he will set up its gates. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 6. Uh, so I'm going to do something I haven't done for a Saturday live stream and ask you what you think about this fucked up mess. Right, Tarum? Like, why does God need a jet anyway? Why can't he just, poof from where he needs them to be? During I've had, you can say fucked, I don't care. Why do these televangelists need jets? Why do, if they really are of God, okay, if they really do serve God, why doesn't God just poof them wherever they need to go? Why do they need a fucking jet? Yeah, Lisa, I sang that song as a kid. Yeah, it is a good strategy. I mean, you know, manipulating emotions lets you bypass critical thinking. Not that most Christians have critical thinking to begin with, because they're taught from a very young age, hey, don't go that critical thinking route. That's dangerous, you know. I agree, Taram. It is a God con. It is a God con. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yeah, yeah, exactly, junk shop, exactly. This is supposed to be for kids, and I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you, there are more shitty stories in this book than Jericho. I mean, if you think the story of Jericho was shitty, there's more to come. Like, I'm not going to give away too much because this is going to be in the next book of Judges. But Jephthah's daughter, that is a seriously fucked up story. And it is so fucked up that the JW Bible doesn't even have it. I agree, Lisa. I agree. Yeah, children should never read it, ever, you know. Um, so, just a few PSAs before I let you guys go. Um, if you are a Christian, and I don't mind you being a Christian being in here. I curse a lot and all that crap, but you know, if you're a Christian, um, I make fun of the Bible because it's a great target to make fun of because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Okay? Hey, I just gotta be honest, you know. Um, but if you are a Christian, all right, stop with the proselytizing. We don't want your bullshit. The Jews don't want it. The atheists don't want it. Nobody wants your fucking bullshit. So stop proselytizing. And also, I don't mind progressive Christians. I really don't. And what I mean by progressive Christians is Christians that are going to let people be who they are. Christians that are not transphobic, not homophobic. You know, Christians who are just going to live and let live. Okay? I don't mind those kinds of Christians. But the Steve Andersons and the Matt Powells, they need to fucking go. They need to fucking go. And the only way they are going to go is for Christians because we can't do it. We're on the outside. We're atheists or, you know, polytheists or whatever, you know. But we're not Christians. Most of us are not Christians. There may be a few Christians that are in here. I don't know. If you are, good for you. You know, you're welcome. You're welcome in here. Everyone's welcome. Uh, you know, no transphobic shit, no homophobic shit, and you can stay here. You you pull any of that shit, you're out. um, you know, I'm not going to tolerate it. And so anyway, um, so yeah, be accepting to others, you know, and only Christians can pressure other Christians into changing. Okay. I'm not going to reach Steve Anderson, but you can. If you're a Christian, you can reach Steve Anderson. Anyway, I'm going to go. So you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Keep healthy. And, if you want to subscribe to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. And thank you very much for the super chat. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow for Atheist Church. See you guys later. Bye.